that collegiate land, I think there were definitely some other teams that maybe had a little bit more expectations on their shoulders, but Bay State subverted them. They got third, fourth, and they managed to beat everybody else out. And while they did go out 3-0 against the eventual champions of the Redbirds, they put up a good fight, right? And it's really important to kind of establish yourself early on before maybe things start getting a little bit more serious, especially in tournaments like this, like All-Star Brawl. This is sort of the great time for both of these teams to establish themselves and show everybody else in the collegiate scene what they're made of. And I think we are ready to get this match underway.
That is true. Our first map of the evening, we're going to be heading to Nepal. So as we're heading into the map, we want to remind you to already be looking at the bottom of your screen for that MVP vote right there. We're going to be bringing them in for an interview, whoever you in the community vote for to bring in. So be sure to let us know by voting for them below. You'll have until the end of map 4 or 5, well, 3, 4, or 5, depending on how tonight goes, to be able to get that vote in. So be paying close attention, or if you want to be memeing, just go ahead and get it done and over with. So let's go ahead and get into this. Looks like the first map we're going to be starting off on is the Shrine. Very interesting place to get things started, Amentus.
Absolutely. And as you can already see on both sides, they have two very different approaches to how they want to take this. We've got Bay State in the blue and UCSC in red. Looks like Bay State's going for the 6-man dive. They need to get out to an early advantage here, looking to try to get some kind of hack on maybe a tank or set up a dive on a backliner before this poke comp from UCSC starts to get a lot of value.
That's absolutely true. I'm seeming to have some issues with a lag on my side, so Amentus, I'm going to hand it over to you now until I can get this thing going.
Sounds good. Well, so far, fortunately, no action has occurred whatsoever. The point has just unlocked. Snozlar's taken position in the backline, trying to look for that first capture, but it's left a couple of members out to dry, particularly the Wrecking Ball and the Sombra. So this 4v6 is not going to be favoring UCSC, but they do get early capture percentage. Very short-lived. It's only 6%.
All right.
Looks like
well, that's a great way to go ahead and get things started. It looks like I'm clearing up, hopefully.
Let's
looks
go.
like Overwatch League bogging down my PC just a little too much to handle tonight. But as the action goes ahead and starts off 15% and climbing as I continue to slideshow my way forward, it looks like as of right now, the percentage for Bay State is looking pretty dang good as we see the Slugs try to create that entrance. EMP already coming out for K, but the Transcendence from Moises just in time. Not enough to save Snozlar, though, so going to be a 5v6 fight as they make their way into the objective. They're going to keep poking it out, trying to see if they can make their way in, but are going to find to be unsuccessful. Pulse bomb coming in, doesn't find its target, but the follow-up does take down Enigma. Self-destruct for the quick remac from Vazok is going to get them back in the fight, but the percentage is going to continue to climb. All those resources invested. Now the rally coming out for the Slugs as they're looking to chase down anyone they can. Self-destruct goes high, gets nothing but pillar as the supports hide behind, start making their way into the objective. And right now, Moises just trying to hold on as Forgotten tries to get them in the back line. Going to be unsuccessful, and just as Slugs should be, they are slowly and surely making their way into the objective, but every second that goes by, another percentage goes up for the side of Bay State. At 82%, they finally lock down the objective.
It was a long and hard-fought battle, but they also lost Ionix EMP, which they're going to be desperately missing in this next engage, because if you look at the ult bank for Bay State, it is just enormous. They've got so many tools to open, so many ways to close, and it looks like they're starting it with the sound barrier.
All right, well, the sound barrier starts things off, gives them a little bit extra to be able to cushion themselves with against the damage. Now Transcendence being utilized again by Moist. It's not really to prevent anything or help with anything, and especially with that EMP, that ain't going to be helping at all. Forgotten and Faded just deletes the support line of UCSC as they continue to try to fight it out on the objective for every bit of percentage that they can get. If they can just keep the stagger going and keep the percentage in their favor, it'll continue to climb, but the Slugs just ain't strong enough as we head into last fight for the Slugs to take it back.
UCSC They really need to figure out a way to stay together in some of these fights. They're splitting from their backline, and it's happening again. Archipelago and Moises are left out to dry in their own spawn. The Coalescence come through. That Brigida is just gone. That is a splatter on the ground, and Moises is going to follow suit. Although they give up a little bit of percentage on the objective, they're holding control in this team fight.
That's true. Self-destruct's going in for either side. Gets nothing but bubble and nothing but pillar, but the picks continue to come in for Bay State. They are not going to allow the slugs anywhere near this objective. The rally comes out from Archipelago, trying to hold it together in a celebratory beat as they go ahead and lock down the shrine 100-55. We're going to see Bay State take an early lead here on Nepal.
They didn't even really break a sweat in some of those team fights. It really only came down to one or two where UCSC had a decent advantage off of Ionic's EMPs, but I didn't really get the opportunity to see more than one of them. It did feel like once Bay State regained that capture percentage after losing it initially, and managed to get that beat out from Mekon and keep that team fight going even after Abs's death, it seemed like it was pretty much a wash. They were able to consistently find that backline. And that's a story that we're going to have to continue to follow throughout the rest of these maps. Let's see if Archipelago and Moises can manage to stay alive if they continue to run this Briggs End dive, because that is an extremely large weak point that Bay State can continue to capitalize on.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate issue right there, is that Bay State is not making the same mistake we've been seeing from other teams against this Briggs End combo that have been used all week. Speed to be able to get past, so either their DPS or tanks need to start peeling back for them, or they're gonna continue to be roadkill, so to speak. We do see the point already going in the favor of Bay State, but we haven't seen a pick yet until Snozzler ends up going down, trying to get to the objective fast enough to keep it from being captured. Was just too little, too late with that second pick on Enigma that locks down the point. 15% and climbing for Bay State.
This adaptation from Bay State is just so helpful in some of these fights. With the Sombra, you don't typically see this in a Brawl composition, the Sombra Tracer DPS lineup. A problem is, those two flankers are not going to be able to follow you up consistently if you go deep, and that's exactly what's happening on your screens right now. It seems like Bay State got a little bit too out of control, but it seems like they're doing a decent job of maintaining it, actually. Infernal does get demexed, but it's a 3v3 as we see this happening in the spawn room of UCSC. And in the meantime, Enigma has to go back and try to flip the objective back. He will do so successfully, so this is a really chaotic team fight that as it continues to go further, I feel like it's just so in favor of Bay State if it continues this way. Okay, or Snozzler can get a pulse.
Hey, that's a good way to start things off. Just in enough time. Shatter finds two. EMP invested as well. A little bit of overkill right there. You're probably going to want that back. But, Bay State obviously feeling themselves this evening as the percentage continues to climb in their favor.
You can see it in the gameplay. They're not afraid to take it to the spawn door every now and then. I mean, look at Abs on your screen right now. He is literally 1v6ing the enemy squad on the Moira. Has to fade away to get to the health packet. Vasog does manage to be Forgotten's Pulse Bomb. That's an interesting coalescence. Eventually gets punished.
Hey, interesting self-destruct, too. I'm not exactly for certain where that was even supposed to be going. I'm guessing they were trying to catch Enigma and Ionic, but going to be unsuccessful. End up just giving the duplicate to Ionic. The beat goes in, as does the minefield. Activated now on point. Ionic melts down, faded, and they will fade back to spawn as the ticker keeps going up. The point flips at the 82% mark, and the Slugs send the Bulldogs back to the doghouse.
And Vasog accidentally bombs. We're not going to talk about that one, buddy. At least not for too long. Right now, like you talked about, Bay State seems to enjoy playing with their food a little bit. They're going, making some questionable, interesting decisions in some of these team fights, and eventually it does get them punished. So you see a couple of late stagger kills come in onto the support line, but overall, that's okay, right? You're just trying to burn a lot of time and maybe get some ultimates out. And it did work at the end. They got 4 ults out of UCSC, and now coming into this next engage with Faded swapping over to Winston, they might have an easier time accessing this backline again.
All right, well, let's see if they can keep this show going. But another big eat. Diva's hungry tonight. Infernal and Vasok just eating up everything they can. Transcendence comes in, but not soon enough to save Vasok's mech. That's going to be hard to find out. EMP finds 5! as Snozzler gets cleaned up. Bomb grabs 2 and the point gets flipped over. Enigma rehacked and is going to be melted down into the scrap metal contained in that body. We're heading into last fight territory for the Slugs to try to take this back.
You know what, Bay State, after a team fight like that, you have earned the right to access the spawn door. Continue going there, guys. I want to see some more aggression coming through. Look at this bomb from Infernal. Just following up on exactly what I wanted. It's going to split the enemy team down 2 different paths, and it's allowed them to, single out a couple of members on that objective, getting an early advantage in this team fight.
And that's going to keep it going. The minefield does go out on point, but gets a majority of that bubble coming out. Rally comes out now from Archipelago, grabs a double, and in Forgotten OASB and West Coast Diff, but the match ain't over yet. As they go ahead and continue to lock down the objective once more and restart that percentage climb.
I'm seeing a bit of a trend here, Captain Jack. Both teams feel like they think they have it in the bag, and then the other one just comes through and flips it. Cade going to get pretty late staggered. There's no translocator left in his back pocket, but he's got that mega health pack hacked. They decide to not go after him, and that might be a problem. He's got this EMP online, and that could be so clutch in this final fight.
Well, they got to get in the fight to be able to use it. Primal Rage ends up sending Archipelago into the back line.
There it is.
Almost looking to send them off. EMP finds 2, but the Discord still sitting on Faded is going to melt them down quickly. Snozzler does find McCann as well as the Transcendence out once again from Moises. Just about every other fight, the Zenyatta pumping out those heals. But the trades coming in from either Tracer, Moises able to find Forgotten, and that is going to be a cleanup of the objective. Folks, we're headed to map 3. Nepal is not done yet, the Slugs say, as the Feed Fest comes in. We're headed to the Sanctum.
Proven to be pretty competitive, and I love some of the spice both teams are putting, not only in match chat, but in their gameplay as well. Nonetheless, I think Bay State's hubris got a little bit punished there. Went a little too deep a couple of times, and they end up biting the bullet. They're going to take 1 sub-map loss here on Nepal, but it's not done just yet. We're going to Sanctum, so this is going to be a bit of a change of locale where we've got this massive pit in the center of the map, and if we think about the kind of compositions we've been seeing so far, particularly Bay State's propensity for playing 6-man dive, it feels like they have a bit of an early advantage. They just need to kind of control some of that aggression and maybe dial it back just a little bit so that they can continue to pound UCSC in some of these mid-game team fights. It looks like they're actually going to swap over to Brawl at the last second here while UCSC is maintaining that dive. So a bit of a clash of styles. It's going to be about how these tanks can manage to survive once the point unlocks.
Well, if it's anything similar to what we saw on Village, this actually could be incredibly deadly, especially, with the boot potential that we see for both sides here. McCann and Archipelago being able to send pretty much anyone off the side, even Enigma, if they get a good roll in.
It was Infernal!
Wow. Infernal. We always forget those Jets can indeed get a little boop off right there to start things off. And Forgotten goes ahead and sends Snozzler back to spawn with that Peacekeeper. The point to go in favor of Bay State to start things off, but I don't think the Slugs are going to lay down like that.
Absolutely not. They've proven that they can fight back, but the problem is they're getting split from this backline like they did in that first sub-map, and now Enigma's just completely caught in no man's land. Right now, UCSC are struggling to make this dive work on Sanctum just because of all of this terrain that the Brawl comp is completely abusing. They're able to sort of play together, but also split at the same time, using that terrain to their advantage, and it's cutting off the Brig Zen from having an impact in a lot of these team fights, so we need to see a refactoring of how UCSC approaches the objective if they want to have a chance.
Snozzler like a wolf on the prowl right now, earning their way up to that pulse bomb, and is just waiting to when they have the attention off of them to send it in. Forgotten sends out the Deadeye, gets nothing but Enigma to the face, and the big slam finds Abs as well in the 4v6. We're gonna see the cleanup come in. Blizzard gets the leash, gonna shut down 2 ultimates for the side of Bay State, and control goes over at 55% mark to the Slugs.
Abe's like, guys, don't worry. I was swapping anyways. I was just throwing it out. It's whatever. But you're absolutely right. That cancel onto the Blizzard is so clutch because it could have turned and forced one of the support ultimates, and that's a talking point. But we've covered a lot And when UCSC doesn't have those support ultimates, they're going to struggle once the Brawl Comp reaches the objective. And already you can see Infernal trying to pressure it, force somebody on the point. It's going to be Enigma to respond, but that allows Abs to drop this window and shut out the Wrecking Ball.
Ooh, Ionic almost getting caught out there as well. Self-destruct for the remake, but gets melted down by Forgotten. Transcendence utilized to try to get into the objective, but it's just too little, too late. We do see Snozzler trying to hold strong. EMP finds 5, but the beat is there just in time from McCann. That regains control for Bay State, and they're looking to get aggressive and go touch those spawn doors.
They don't want to stop. They forced out Ionic's translocator. Snozzler goes deep and gets the pulse bomb trade. So again, the hubris will be punished once more. But eventually, we're going to reach an equilibrium, right? Both teams are going to have to take a quick reset here because they lost one member. And this is going to heavily favor Bay State. They've got tons of space control with this High Noon, with this bomb. The pulse bomb from Cape can access Moises now that the Transcendence is gone. Even the rally from Archipelago. And Abs just comes back and decides to 1v1 the Tracer too. So even a bigger advantage to Bay State.
Self-destruct going in deep, cutting off egress right there as we see the rally utilized from Archipelago. 5%. Somebody's got to touch that objective. Deadeye comes out, but the field goes around the Deadeye surrounding the entire team. They have to invest the immortality, but it's not going to be enough for them to hold it all together. And now overtime ticks away as the slam comes in from Enigma. Half of Bay State is trapped in the side room. Make that the supports, but thankfully they have the abilities to be able to get out of that side room without having to engage. No. We see the Ant Matrix now coming up, but Vasok takes out Abs, so not going to get any value out of that amp right there as the percentage continues to climb for the Slugs.
And Infernal's gonna get the most brutal stagger of his career, it feels like. It looks like Snozzler not actually able to close out the kill on the Baby Diva, so the stagger will stop as Cape decides to trade back onto Snozzler. Okay, the Tracer gets picked off for the second fight in a row, and now Enigma's stunned out in the open, managed just to survive, but Bay State, they've had this advantage before. Can they capitalize now?
Self-destruct going high, looking to see who it can grab. Finds Gabe just outside of the area. The tackle comes in, but Transcendence will save the day for now. The Deadeye finds Enigma, taking that pesky rat off the field. Pulse bomb just barely misses Ab's ankle and finds itself on the side of the stairs instead, with the support line gone. And in final fight territory, Vasok, the last one to be able to try to hold this objective. Overtime now ticking away as they look to try to hold on to this point. It's going to take a lot of investment here to be able to flip this over, but there's nothing on point for them to utilize, and nobody can touch in a time. Bay State walks away with the victory here on Nepal, starting off our evening 1-0 against UCSC.
And some people might look at that gameplay and say it wasn't clean. They had to MacGyver it to get through to the end there, but there were moments where it felt like Bay State was in such tight control of the team fights, and it came off of the back of their ability to shut out the tanks consistently. When Enigma's Wrecking Ball was unable to get some of those engages started, when that ball was getting chain hacked, chain CC'd, they couldn't find ways back in. UCSC had to rely on some damage-dealing threats, and they just weren't there a lot of the time. But when Enigma did get those mines out, you saw it on that last submap, it completely disrupted everything Bay State wanted to do in that fight. So that's a trend that, again, we're going to have to track throughout the course of this series. And it's a talking point that you and I kind of discussed briefly going into this. Can UCSC's dive overcome Bay State's brawl? Because Bay State relied on this composition to get them to where they got in the Hugh Fest to pretty much flying colors that didn't see any contest until the end. And again, it seems like it's working pretty well when they're not, trolling some of the fights.
That's absolutely true. And it's also, like you said already, it's based on how aggressive they're being. If that hubris, again, is getting to them and they go in a little too deep, they do pay for it. And UCSC does make sure of that. But the name of the game, once we get to these final rounds of the tournament, is all about what Overwatch has always been about. and that's flexibility. Being
Yes.
able to move onto several compositions, not necessarily dedicated to a single one, and just knocking your head against the door using Albert Einstein's definition of insanity to try to see if you can make something work. If you can't make it work, there are 32 heroes available in the game, folks. There are other combinations that could possibly break on through, and that's going to be up to both of these teams to figure out what that is. If the brawl shows to be too strong for Bay State, can UCSC find a way to circumnavigate that through another composition that is not this Wrecking Ball Diva dive? Or if UCSC ends up finding themselves to be a little bit too fast, what does Bay State do to kind of go against that? Do they go for the mirror match with that mirror dive, or do they opt for more CC, bringing out a Symmetra or maybe even a Reaper for additional damage so it takes less hits to melt down those drive-bys we keep seeing from those characters?
True, absolutely true. And to touch back on one of those earlier points you made, adaptation and flexibility is key here. And interestingly enough, here at All Star Brawl, we have a different tournament format where the winning team of each map decides to ban a next map as we go into the next. So Bay State decided to ban Volskaya, trying to get around some of the 2CP options where you might see a dive mirror come out, and dive might actually be favored in that mismatch. But UCSC counters by selecting Watchpoint Gibraltar, which, as you all know, and I'm sure as anybody that watches Overwatch League knows, dive is going to likely be played here. So this is obviously, at least on paper, going to favor UCSC, and now we're going to get to see whether or not Bay State can either mirror it and find that similar success as they did on the first map, or if they have some kind of interesting strategy to deal specifically with dive on Gibraltar, because at this point it's kind of a foregone conclusion that it feels like the Slugs are going to lock in the dive, so we have to see what kind of adaptations Bay State can make on their own side.
That's true, and they're going to be coming in on the defense to start off with as well, so they will have to be figuring out kind of what composition works out best for them when it comes to countering this dive, if that is what they end up utilizing. Something that I've been a little bit surprised about that we haven't seen come out from any of the dive teams that have chosen Watchpoint Gibraltar in this series is the utilization of Symmetra out of the spawn doors.
Yeah.
Like, they use it, but they go to the low ground on the other side. They don't just teleport straight to the bridge to try to meet the enemy team where they're at. And looking at the defense, it looks like, as you stated, we're going to be seeing that mirror composition come out for the anti-dive.
Importantly, though, Forgotten has decided to lock in Widowmaker, and this is a huge skew in the dynamic of a lot of these fights because it completely changes how the backline is going to play. They need to even be more careful than they were previously in some of those fights for getting their head taken off by the sniper. You have to watch those sightlines, and Forgotten is going to be constantly searching for the squishies rather than the tanks taking those very deep positions. Like you mentioned, we're going to get a TP across the bridge to set up the backline on that high ground, but they're unable to spot out Forgotten. It looks like Faded and Cape have been pretty ready for that TP. Abs layers in the nade, but nothing's going to come of it. A late hack from Ionic means that Forgotten's going back to the spawn room as Enigma follows up, so that Widowmaker gambit has not paid off.
Yeah, just couldn't get the angle that they were needing to, and I was actually kind of surprised with Forgotten's positioning there. We're going to see them swap on over to the Ashe for this next fight, but needless to say, I don't think that that's going to be the right choice either. Not going to give you the mobility that you have, and with the recent nerf we saw, it's also not going to be helping out without that extra power to be able to take out those heroes.
And Furl gets demeched on the objective here, and there's been kind of this fight on two fronts with the supports dueling it out on the high ground while the tanks and the DPS take low. And it seems like UCSC are getting this early advantage by getting that demech. Nice trank comes in from Moses as well to dissuade the nano-boosted dive from Faded. He's going to have to jump away, and in the meantime, like you mentioned, that Ashe from Forgotten is not finding value in this team fight.
Yeah, they're just going to be moving too fast. You got to move over to that McCree if you're looking for stun ability and damage right there. And the DMech also coming in on Infernal is not going to help matters much. The payload is already through the underground as we see the rally now coming out from Nev to try to hold things together. But Archipelago says, I got two, and starts sending them on out. We do see the remech, a self-destruct come out for Vasok, not needing that in the least to be able to continue to create space as they go ahead and run him down. Infernal does retake control of the objective as we Ionic separated out from the rest of the team, just barely able to get away with the skin of their teeth. Minefield coming out against the dive of Bay State. It's just too strong for them to hold on. Infernal gets melted down immediately as Objective Alpha is captured. A good old 420, nice, on the clock as we see the Slugs head into the hangar.
Yeah, both of these teams have made some changes, particularly in the support line. You see Abs locking in the Ana. And a big problem that we've been seeing in a lot of these team fights is the biotic grenades are landing on the enemy team, but they're not being followed up on properly. It feels like when you have that Ashe, as compared to something more traditional, like a Sombra that can duo with the flankers, you can't follow up on it. And again, we're seeing the key difference here. The flankers are making the difference in the team fights. Snozzler opening things up with the full spawn.
Self-destruct goes super high, and whoa! Grabs Ionic just barely out of position and in line of sight of that self-destruct, but it doesn't seem to be making one inkling of a difference against the dive of UCSC as they chase down Forgotten, just barely able to get back into the spawn area. We see Objective Bravo almost ready to be captured by the Slugs.
EMP from Ionic, that's going to hit two members, particularly that.
Oh my goodness, Moises is becoming Moses. It's separating the sea that is Bay State to allow the payload to continue to push through with those orbs of harmony and discord. I tell you what, another 420 on the clock. Nice again. As we go ahead and make our way into Objective Charlie.
You don't typically see it twice. Looks like the swaps coming in from Bay State have just not found the value that they need to, particularly on the tank line. It feels like Faded and Infernal, not having that additional damage threats from a Zenyatta, are struggling in on a lot of these fights, and the Nano boost isn't making the difference either. Faded tries to open things up with another Nano from Abs. He's got the Primal to sustain it as well, but that's a double layered support ultimate, and you're not going to be able to kill anybody in that.
That's true. The anti-nade did come in and find the two tanks, though, so they might have been able to at least take some damage off of the Transcendence that was invested in. Fabuk just barely able to grab Forgotten there. These Diva Bombs are in such interesting positions, but find those that they're looking for. Cabe now swapped over to the Soldier 76. Pops out the tack visor just in the nick of time and finds Vasuk after the DMAC. That's going to shut down this push and finally stop the Slugs, but it looks like just barely as they continue to push back while waiting for their fallen compatriot.
The Diva and the Sombra will return. Enigma goes for another soft dive, but that's just a little bit too deep, buddy. You don't have the full team behind you. And with the Bob coming through from Forgotten as well, that's going to be an instant end to this push. And to talk a little bit about the map that we're seeing here, Gibraltar is notorious for being difficult to capture on third. I feel like teams on first and second, if you can get a good first push through and not have it get interrupted by anything too surprising, you can come into third with a massive time bank. But we're already seeing it dwindle pretty quickly, back down to 2 minutes and now 45 seconds, with no real ults to speak of outside of this Transcendence and the EMP approaching. It does feel like UCSC is struggling a little bit.
A little bit, but again, it's all about that spawn advantage. But here we go with Bay State getting in and getting aggressive against the spawn doors that may work for you once here. But remember, the quicker you take them out, the faster they get to come back.
Especially with Ionic waiting in the wings. Got that EMP, but Infernal scouts it out. That was so clutch. That's going to buy even more time off the clock. And now Enigma has stuck up the creek without a paddle. Nobody to support this Wrecking Ball. Going to get forced back by Neb. And that is another extension to this third point. Vice grip from Bay State here. They're burning more and more time off the clock, only burning 1 or 2 ultimates per team fight to do so. That's going to buy them a lot of time, but eventually the hubris, again, it's going to get punished. The overextension from Forgotten, he comes, on the other end of the tank line, and it seems like this team fight is just ignoring the objective.
Honestly, I'm hoping that nobody ends up just kind of making their way around. Ionic just kind of sneaking in the point while no one's looking with the aggression we're seeing coming out from Bay State. But it looks like they're getting ready to set up. They're trying to get the team as together as they can so that EMP can come out. The anti-nade does end up hitting Enigma, but it's not going to be enough to take them out. Primal Rage sending Enigma like a beach ball over to the side area, but not going to be enough to take them out. Nice trade coming in in from Snozzler and Vasek right there, but it's not going to be enough for them to go ahead and lock this down. Only a minute remaining on the clock. The EMP grabs 4. We do see Forgotten's Bob come online, but not actually going to be utilized to try to create some space for the team. Not a lot of follow-up on that EMP as we see Ionic swap over to the Hanzo.
That EMP felt like an expression of frustration, and I can kind of understand why. Cabe and Forgotten with this Soldier Ashe combo is just punishing these sightlines so heavily without any response from the enemy team, and now Ionic has to swap over to Hanzo just to try to mirror, but already 4 minutes have expired and there's only 30 seconds remaining, but that slam bomb was so big!
Big old slam, and the Nano goes in onto Faded, but there is nothing that can be done about it. That Nano gets 0 value as Vasek chases down Cabe, and with 10 seconds remaining on the clock, the staggers are going to be coming from spawn to try to hold this together. Transcendence for Moises is online, ready to release as Bob comes out, just runs right over the payload to the other side of the objective. Not going to get the value that Forgotten was hoping for right there, and the tack visor also not finding a lot inside those spawn doors. In overtime, with a pulse bomb in celebration, they will go ahead and lock down objective Charlie, allowing themselves at least another fight, should they stop Bay State the same way.
Man, that last fight was just from bad to worse, the movie there for Bay State. Forgotten throws the bob out and misses the point, and he takes a 5-orb to the face. Rally comes through from Neb, and it gets immediately killed. It just felt like every attempt to recontest there was instantly shut out by UCSC. And, you know, we've kind of beat the slow and steady horse to death at this point, but we do have to kind of mention it here. That was the playstyle that had the most success for them. When they were able to take slow control of those team fights, work things in from front to back, shut out those angles from Forgotten and Cabe, that was their key, their ticket to starting to access that objective. And although they didn't find success with Sombra on the 3rd point, they're going to have a much easier time pivoting back to it on 1st and 2nd, because it allows you to shut out the tanks coming in for the dive on this high ground. So Faded and Infernal, again, have to be careful, because Ionic can swap at any time, and that's going to completely change the playstyle of UCSC, like we've seen throughout the series.
That's absolutely true. And for the folks at home, if you enjoy what you're seeing here at the Star Esports Live, be sure to be hitting that follow button, punching that bell. You get notified every time we're online. You can also hit that sub button. Remember, it is 20% off here in September. $3.99 or an Amazon or Twitch Prime subscription will give you access to some amazing emotes as well as support this incredible community. We already seen the Symmetra teleporter, again, not going on the bridge. Still one of the oddest things that I've seen from a lot of the teams here at in the All-Star Brawl. But nevertheless, it does get them to where they need to go eventually as they work their way into this side room. The support's all ready for Faded as they go ahead and slam him right back to the ground where the payload exists. Enigma almost able to take them out, but just not fast enough. They will hold control of this high ground for now as the payload makes its way through the underground.
I mean, UCSC are just making this so difficult for Bay State. They try to go for these rotations, but it seems like every flanker, every DPS threat is ready and willing to throw it all. They get that hack onto the Winston, which means no recontest on the counter dive from UCSC, and that's a minute off the clock already. They're going to start building up more ultimates, particularly on the support line, which makes it really difficult for Faded to get value again. And if we see something like we saw on 1st and 2nd from the defense from Bay State, that could prove very fatal for this attack.
That's absolutely true. Every time Faded ended up getting the Nano, we ended up seeing the Transcendence, which is already online for Moises, by the way. The cancel comes in. Ionic able to take down Abs. Oh, I see what you're saying. Cancels out. On that hack, we do see some cleanup coming in from Infernal and Cabe as the Bob is released from Forgotten. That will create a bit of space for them to be able to move this payload a little bit further, but not enough for them to take control just yet.
UCSC was like, yeah, we got the Nano out and it's gone, and then they go too far and die. But fortunately, they've got a good recontest composition. Neb's gonna pop this rally, and Snozzler tries to throw in the pulse bomb, but it does not find its mark, and Forgotten lays a bullet to the face. Archipelago on the other side is split. Bay State to walk up, and here comes the bomb too.
Woo! Nice clear right there as we see Vasek almost getting caught by it.
Oh,
EMP and Minefield come out, but they're not overlapping one another, so not going to find the value that they were looking for right there as the slow and steady cleanup coming in from Bay State. Primal Rage from Faded actually just kind of in the spawn area of UCSC with a minute 26. They finally make it to Objective Alpha. No 420s for Bay State this time around, but they will continue pushing that payload forward and showing the aggression in the hangar.
Yeah, they weren't really able to do it previously on the defending side, showing off that aggressive playstyle we saw when they were running Brawl. But now it seems like it's finally coming through and paying dividends because it's actually working in their favor, which you don't typically see on Dive, right? Against the slow and steady playstyle with this Briggs and Yada, they have to wait for the poke to come through. But Forgotten is just taking out the Tracer in a lot of these engages, which is meaning that this poke does not get followed up on. Abe is alone in this objective right now, trying to duel out Snozzler, vying for supremacy on the point. But right now, he's getting support from Infernal, so this is going to allow Bay State to continue this push, and in the meantime, everybody else on the backline has taken the high ground, giving them a huge advantage.
Ooh, unfortunate right there. Moises just barely short of that Transcendence, will get melted down by the Nano, along with Ionic, who swaps over to an Ashe of their own. Spin to win comes out for Enigma, but it's not going to be finding the dub this time around. Objective Bravo is clear to be captured as we see a minute 30 added to the clock. Oh, Snozzler just barely able to touch the objective, trying to hold on. No, gets booped back. Vasek coming in with that trade, and the Transcendence not able to get there in time. They're going to try to lock down these spawn doors, but I think it is just too little, too late. Pulse and Snozzler Moises and Snozzler get taken down in that fight, and that creates a very easy source of pathing for that payload to make its way through as the Ultimates continue to stagger.
This has just been a 3-minute stagger, it feels like, for UCSC. They have yet to get their feet underneath them, and Bay State have taken the reins and just gone to the finish line with it. We're approaching final fight territory, and it feels like Bay State have not lost control of the objective in a very long time. Here come the mines in the rally to split things up. Abs is getting caught out by Snozzler on the sidelines. Neb not there to support, and that's going to allow, eventually, UCSC to recontest.
Well, I think that's the great thing about what just happened with the stagger from UCSC, right? We talk about Bay State having to, getting that value by getting aggressive at the spawn doors, which is great. But you also allow that extra time for the team to be able to group up in the defensive spawn and stop you right before the golden box of victory, which is what we're seeing right now. But now we might be able to see this trade coming in. As the picks are coming in, they might be able to get in fast enough before a full regroup can be had. 2:40 on the clock right now, and a Primal Raging Monkey at the doors. Thankfully, Snozzler was at the other spawn. Enigma swapping over to the pig at the last moment to try to sustain, but it's not going to be enough. They're getting another minute added back on the clock, as does UCSC, but the Slugs get a chance to attack again. And need I remind you, they were able to take Objective Alpha and Bravo relatively easily.
They breezed through the first 2 points, but it does feel like Bay State is kind of downloading the enemy here throughout the course of the match. Again, one of the big things we were talking about coming into the second map here is, was Bay State going to make the adaptations when we saw the dive mirror? And so far, we've seen a lot of different looks from them. We've seen double hit scan come out. We've seen double flanker come out when Forgotten had to swap back over off of that Widowmaker. But it seems like this hybrid look where we have the Ashe Tracer has proven to be the most successful, particularly because Forgotten just feels uncontested on this Ashe. He is opening up fight after fight after fight with picks onto the opposing DPS. When your backline doesn't have to worry about taking a pulse bomb to the face in overtime, that changes the game, right? Now you can start to take that aggression and really start to run with it. Really, the only weakness we've seen from Bay State is when Neb and Abs get split in some of these engages, but it does feel like that's a pretty easy mistake to fix. You just got to play closer to one another. So again, we have to watch that closely. Do Abs and Neb get split? And does Forgotten start missing soon? Because on UCSC side, they need him to start missing if they want to have a chance.
Well, we will see if that's the case. Sleep Dart comes in to stop Enigma's rollout before it's even able to get started, and the anti-nade will send them back to spawn. They're actually not going to use the Symmetra teleporter. If they did, they ended up taking it to the underground there as a way to kind of circumnavigate some of the damage that was coming out from UCSC. Gotten already down as we go ahead and see that payload moving its way into the underground. We're going to have to wait and see if Enigma starts making their way to the high ground to try to help out the rest of the team in this side area. Abs is ready and waiting to throw out another ante as Archipelago and Moises end up falling right there. We will see Snozzler going ahead and trying to push that payload as far as they can get it with only 10 seconds on the clock. Anybody's got to touch that point to get it into overtime.
I mean, Forgotten got spawn camp, but who cares? Bay State is winning this one, and fast. They've got to put something together on UCSC's side. Overtime contest will be procced by Ionic, but Snozzler's caught behind enemy lines. He needs to reconnect with his team, and it's not going to happen. That's a 5v6 going into this engage.
That's true, and with the Nano now going in, Cape sends up... There is no way, no how that they are going to be able to turn this around in time. Ionic just barely has enough health. Couldn't get up the EMP in time as well either. And the overtime ticks away, just barely able to get it to the 39-meter mark. This is going to be hell for the side of UCSC as they try to hold the line with over 3 minutes on the clock.
It's looking like Normandy out there, boys. You have to hold those trenches down if you want to have a chance. And honestly, at this point, trench warfare might be your best option. You know, set up the little Symmetra car wash down underneath. But regardless of what the Slugs decide to lock in here, it does seem like Bay State has just been unlocked in this mirror. They are playing with the same aggression they had on Brawl and not getting traded against. Even when a couple of members go down in some of the engages, Bay State continues to commit and push it to the spawn door like we know they can, and it's not getting responded properly with. Feels like none of the backliners, particularly Neb and Abs, are getting traded out as frequently as they were previously, and it's allowing everybody else on Bay State to have a much easier time. You're going to see Cape get these 2K pulse bombs consistently if he just doesn't have anybody else to worry about. But already we could see a bit of a change-up coming in here from UCSC. They're going towards 6-man dive, and this is a comp that they've seen on the enemy team pretty consistently, at least in the first map in Nepal. So maybe they took a couple of pages out of their book and they're starting to play for time here. Feels like that's their only chance.
Yeah, that's really all they can do at this point is to try to stagger out as much as possible and hope they do have plenty of time to earn up ultimate. But as we've been seeing from UCSC, sometimes they get a little trigger happy on that Q key. As we already see the payload moving its way forward, it's about to make its way halfway there, but Forgotten already taken down by Enigma, and they're just going to continue to keep Bay State questioning the decisions that they are making right now as they go ahead and send member after member back to spawn. Don't even worry about setting it up, that car wash, setting up that solid defense. Just go ahead and melt them down with a good old case of the giggle.
They spawn camped that TP. They knew the Symmetra was going to come out. They were going to put it on that blue box side, and they just blow up the Widowmaker before Forgotten can even have a chance to respond. And now he's facing threat against Ionic in the spawn. Eventually, though, it does feel like Bay State are going to get their feet back underneath them. Neb is a little bit split for the rest of the team, and they're going to actually get singled out and killed. Moises crucially survives through the nade with the Fade, and now with the Nado coming out onto Faded, this feels like a rough salvaged attempt, but it does work. They get one back.
That is true. The trade comes in 1-for-1. Coalescence coming out to try to save the rest of the team as the self-destruct way too high. Side, no slow supports this time around, and there goes Infernal pushing that payload in. 30, 31, 32. Somebody from the team has to touch that objective in time as the beat gets invested from Archipelago. That's the last support ultimate they're gonna have for a while to be able to try to hold this line, and they still have 2 minutes remaining on the clock. They're able to push back Bay State at 4 now, but the picks just aren't coming in yet. Cabe finally being the first one to fall as we go ahead and see Snozzler send out the pulse, doesn't find the value it's looking for either. EMP finds 3 as they try to fight their way back to the spawn. Moises again, first on the Zenyatta and now on the Moira, just sucking the life out of the enemy and are already halfway back to that Coalescence.
Bay-State don't know what to do. They have tried a lot of different things. They've gone for the split on the objective, the rotate towards high ground, but the singled out members continuously get hacked by Ionic. The Sober performance is something to admire, and that was a minute and 20 seconds remaining on the clock. You can see Bay-State are just struggling to put something together. The rally comes through from net, but they're not going to have that to counter out any aggression coming back from the Slugs.
That's true. The rally comes out and the self-destruct gets utilized.
Might
for the
not
quick
need it.
rematch. Forgotten now on to the Ash, grabs the double kill, and with Moises out of the fight, that's a lot of the damage that they were looking at. Now down, the golden box of victory is within a meter's time, and the cleanup is fast and fierce. Bay-State, tired of the shenaniganry, will go ahead and lock down this final point, taking us 2-0 in our series against UCSC.
And again, we're seeing a mirror of what happened previously on Nepal. Moments where the Slugs were in a pretty decent position throughout the maps, but at some point, Bay-State just decides, no, we're done playing around and we're going to start dominating you. It happened on their defense, it happened on their attack, it happened on their second attack now. Every single time Bay-State just decides to drop the training weights, it seems like they have an easy time in these team fights. Overall, though, a great attempt from UCSC to try to salvage what was left in that Watchpoint Gibraltar map. And again, we should know that that was their map selection, and that was supposed to be where they were favored, especially in that dive mirror. So when you see them go over to 6-man as an attempt to try to come up with something to work here, it's kind of an admission of defeat, in my opinion. Now they don't feel as confident in that dive mirror, knowing that Bay-State can respond in kind.
That's true, but it's all about the focus fire. Like you said, they've pretty much been allowing Forgotten to be, well, forgotten during most of the fights, giving no focus whatsoever to the Ash that is raining dynamite and bullets down from above. So it's really going to be up to UCSC to try to see if they can turn the tide on that. Speaking of turning the tide, though, taking a look at the Twitch picks below your MVP pick for the end of today's match, it looks like right now Snozzler is sitting up on top with 17 votes. Now we know how y'all in the chat do like a good old loser interview, put the salt in the wound, so to speak, as we've seen a couple of times here during the tournament. But if you are out there, you still have time to vote for your MVP. Right now, the closest next in line actually only has 3, so you got a bit to go. But, you know, if you got friends, bring them along, have them go ahead and vote for you. And that's for Faded on the side of Bay-State, who has been putting in a heck of a ton of work on that Winston when it's not getting totally denied by Moises.
Yeah, you touched on bringing your friends in to vote. I think they might have already done that for Snozzler, given the circumstances of the match so far, and the fact that we're sitting at 2-0 here with Bay-State coming out on top. But to get back into the match real quick, we've got a bit of an interesting substitution, and this is going to require a bit of ranked lore from me. The lore master has arrived. Zebra has been swapped in for UCSC, and if you've ever faced this player in your ranked games, you know this guy loves to play Doomfist. This guy is essentially a Doomfist one trick, maybe a bit of a specialist if you want to go that route. Regardless, UCSC is subbing in Zebra, confident that for whatever he's going to bring to the table, it's going to make the difference in this series, because right now they need it. They've been getting consistently stomped out when they feel like they should have the advantage in a lot of these team fights by Bay-State. And if the momentum continues in Bay-State's favor as we go to Lijiang Tower, it's going to be the end of the series. We might see a 3-0 here.
Yeah, that is true. They do have UCSC on the back foot, but the Slugs do have a chance to finally open up that closet, pull out their brooms, and start going for that beep reverse sweep, and maybe Zebra is the key. Doomfist, when played well, can incredibly change the tide of how fights go with that single pick potential first time every time. And so if Zebra is as you have played them up to be, Bay-State, I hope you have that composition of stunnables ready once again, because you might need it going into this next match. It looks like based on bans, we have seen Hanamura banned, so that leaves us now with Full Sky Hanamura Temple, the only remaining point left in that matchup. But it looks like it doesn't matter. We're heading back to Control, either for a quick reset for UCSC or a quick finish for Bay-State.
That's an interesting point that you make there, because to me, when you see a team ban away two 2CP maps in a row, you might initially start to think that maybe Bay State doesn't really feel too comfortable on that game mode. Regardless, it seems like UCSC feels more than confident enough in their strategy of subbing Zebra in for Lijiang Tower. And as we go towards our first map of Night Market here, it's going to be interesting to see what he decides to lock in and how it's going to be played. Because of the fact that if you look at this type of map, it's pretty wide open. There's a lot of different angles you can take. So looking for consistent punch targets, you're going to have to wait for the enemy to come to you. Fortunately, we're on control, and once that point unlocks, somebody on Bay State is going to have to contest. And I think that's what the Slugs are gambling on.
Yeah, I was almost getting a little tickly there as we saw Vasok playing around with the Winston. Thought we were going to see a little bit of Bulldozer coming out for Night Market, which definitely is doable. But needless to say, it looks like they are not going to lock that one in today. But they are going to lock in that Symmetra to be able to get to the objective that much faster and try to create that crowd control that is going to be needed for this. Cabe coming in on the Sombra is going to create the space they need as well. Get those hacks off and just melt them down with those beams.
They have to wait for the right opportunity. They gotta maybe wait to clear out the turrets here, but they're choosing to ignore it and just going straight for the back line. Mekon gets the clutch boop onto Moises. Archipelago barely survives and Zebra trades back, but this is a very intense fight as the point unlocks.
That's true, and with the initial pick there from Zebra as well, it's going to be hard for them to hold on to this objective. The picks continue to come in as Vasek sends Infernal after the DMAC right off the side, and no! Mikan with the double coming in. They're just ready to yeet anyone and everyone they can off of this objective. Moises is able to make their way back in with Snozzler now on the Reaper. They will finally lock down the point for the Slugs as the cleanup crew is back and ready to take down Bay State.
Abs just faded into the B line and picked up a mega health pack. He's got this coalescence, but he's left the rest of his team alone, and now they have no sustain. That is a lone Moira behind enemy lines, and eventually it might force out Moises, but they're going to be able to respond pretty easily. That should be a pretty fast team fight win here, as Infernal's going to get staggered brutally once again on the control map type. It seems like UCSC has figured out a way to counter the six-man dive here with Zebra on this Doomfist. So far, it's working pretty well.
Yeah, between Zebra on the Doomfist and Snozzler on that Reaper, the tanks really don't have a choice to be able to dive in on anyone. If either of them are in position, you do see the EMP come out, but finds Enigma and Moises, not necessarily the targets that you're looking for. Double beats invested as we see the self-destruct come in. We see the Primal send Archipelago and able to take down Moises as well with the support line down for either side, and the Shatter not finding the value it was looking for. The only one left is Vasok near the objective, trying to hold on and keep that percentage going. Archipelago able to get back in relatively quickly, but will then both get picked off as the percentage swaps on over to Bay State.
Ooh, that punch from Zebra, that's rough. I don't even know what to say about that one. You think you're going in for the engage, and then he just punches you in the face, and he's not done. He's going deep.
Oh, he is ready, willing, and able to slam down some of those punches, and goodness gracious, they're dead. Leave them alone. They got family, Zebra. Only 21% on the board as we go ahead and see UCSC retake control.
You know? He really is a specialist, isn't he? Only Zebra on the Doomfist could pull something like that off. Manages to punch off two members. Gabe's gonna come back in with that EMP, but Moises has the coalescence to respond. Zebra gets forced out instantly and forgotten with the Reaper. He needs to get some more people if they want to continue this push.
Ooh, double comes in, self-destruct goes high, finds Forgotten for Vasek, and they're going to be fading back into the objective to see if they can hold control. Moises gets picked out of position by Ads as we go ahead and see Zebra investing every cooldown they had just to be able to touch the point and get it into overtime. It looks like UCSC is going to have to let go of this point once again, but they're in last fight territory as long as they can take it back quick.
All it takes is one, and like you mentioned, Doomfist is the character that can provide the one. They might have ultimates, but that instant kill is going to remove an ultimate. Zebra has to get the punch pick to open things up for his team, or at least for the meantime, up until everybody else on the Slugs gets their ults. In the meantime, though, look at all this aggression from Bay State. They're going deep with this Coalescence, and it split the DPS.
That is true. The shatter is full, and the cleanup is fast, and fierce. Just enough distraction from Zebra for the shatter to come out in time. Self-destruct, getting a release, but not going to find the value it was looking for from Infernal, and that is going to be it as the overtime clock ticks away. It is going to take a miracle to see Bay State take this back, and as the ticker continues to go down and get reset, as long as those picks continue to come in, they're able to force them away with this Coalescence. We see it, EMP trying to find its way in, Meteor Strike got in looking for it, finds the 2 on the outside as Archipelago sends Mikan over the side. 100-57 as we go ahead and see UCSC not laid down yet and take the night market 1-0.
They're not done just yet, like you mentioned. And I want to point a little bit of attention to something that might have slipped under the radar there. Mikan, I am so sorry, my guy. You went from having the play of your life at the beginning of the round, getting the 3K on the boop, to the Ajax. It's, the peaks and the valleys in this match are quite intense, so it seems. Bay State are going to have to find a way to climb back up to get the upper hand in this map of Lijiang Tower, because so far, it does feel like there's been a bit of a fire lit underneath the Slugs so far. And they want to continue to let that fire grow throughout the rest of this series. It's kind of off the back of Zebra, too. And now we're in a little bit of a best-case scenario for Zebra. This map is just really going to favor Doomfist, so all that UCSC have to do is just stall things out, wait for the Doom to get set up like he's doing right now, and find that pick.
Well, like you said, upper hand, more like uppercut, as we go ahead and see Zebra in the backline, ends up getting taken down by Forgotten. The turret's just enough to slow that Doomfist down for them to take care of him, but they've got control of the objective for now. We do see the teleporter come out to try to create an escape for them, but it is not going to be utilized in time. Forgotten finds the triple and goes ahead and locks it down as the percentage continues to climb for Bay State.
Speaking of peaks and valleys, Zebra goes again from punching many members off the map to being the sole death, the first death in the team fight for the Slugs. But a lovely play from Abs there to take that position in the white room to avoid getting uppercutted out of his lamp. Small micro decision that saved his life, and now on this recontest, the Slugs are trying to find a way through to the objective, but this Symmetra barrier is going to make things difficult.
Symmetra barrier, Shatter, and Ant Matrix all invested and all denied by the side of the Slugs. The trap, though, finds Enigma, and that will not be a good way to lock it all down. All those ults invested, and they were still able to take it right on away. 45% and climbing for Bay State.
They might want to continue this. I'm looking at this bomb from Infernal. This is the perfect time to capitalize, but no, he thinks better of it. He's going to decide to hold and wait for the right opportunity. Look at Forgotten in the corner on the Junkrat as well. We've neglected to mention it, but he's about to have an explosive fight, or he just dies first.
Yeah, not a good way to start things off, but the self-destruct does find Archipelago as Enigma able to get that tackle as well. Now here it comes, Zebra coming in, cleans up Mikan, Moises following up on Defeated, and that is going to be a cleanup of the objective. Now Infernal, the only one nearby, Forgotten, trying to get their hat back into the ring, but gets immediately melted out by Snozzler. Not a chance. The Ant Matrix comes out, but the barrier is denied. Self-destruct comes in clean as we see Cabe and Abs' immortality going down. There's just nothing that Bay State can do right now. The point is captured and will continue to climb for the Slugs.
Forgotten tries to go for the passive activation there, and he does it again in this team fight. Gonna drop those mines, but will not find anybody from beyond the grave. And now, it seems like UCSC, they're in the point of power. Zebra will be able to set up on these off angles with that Doomfist. And if the Bay State Bulldogs cannot scout out the Doom, you're going to lose a member on every rotation. He goes for the punch on the Diva, so not an instant kill, but it leaves Faded open.
We do see the Shatter come in as we see a Faded teleporting a little bit earlier than the rest of the team, leaving them wide open, and the cleanup is fast and fierce. 50% in climbing for the Slugs as they're looking to make their way towards victory in the control center.
Now Zebra's deep in enemy lines. He's all the way on the right side. Eventually he's gonna have to give it up, but again, it's all about this TP from Cave. The tire's going to be layered over top, but Zebra's disrupting on the front line. It forces the beat and the lamp. But the tire doesn't get anything. It just forces the lamp out. And in the meantime, the beat from Archipelago is coming in to respond.
Meteor Strike comes in, finds Forgotten on the pillar, and the cleanup comes in once again through the crisscrossed applesauce matrix of Symmetra walls, and we're heading into final fight territory at 80% and climbing. It doesn't look like the Slugs are gonna let this point go anytime soon.
There's just been a lack of adaptation from Bay State. They've tried and failed repeatedly to take this objective back, but nothing is working. Eventually, Cave swaps over to Reaper to have a better chance in these mid-fights, but it's about the beginning. Both windows come out, and now Faded Shield's broken. He's got to watch out because Enigma's going to have that Shatter, but instead it's Faded Shatter first.
Faded gets the Shatter, but the self-destruct grabs too! They're able to trade it off, getting the double right there on the point. Will it be Toil in trouble, though? 99% right now as the cleanup continues to come in. Forgotten grabs the double, but they still gotta lock down this objective. That Junkrat's still trying to get those picks onto Snozzler, but the teleporter is helping them get in and out of the fight quickly, and the feed comes back from the spawn for either side. Both teams are back on the field. The Shatter finds nothing but shield as the tire comes out, finds Enigma. Snozzler falls to Faded, and although the barrier is up, it is providing very little safety for the rest of the team. Forgotten and those grenades are just melting them down, and now we're in true final fight territory as the Bulldogs retake control.
If there's anything I've learned from this series, it's that it's not over until it's over, and both of these teams are echoing that sentiment to the fullest. We've got both teams mirroring their sound barriers coming up on this last engage. Archipelago has a slight advantage, but they're not choosing to take tempo. They've got to get that contest, and that's exactly what Snozzler does, but he had to swap to Tracer, and that's going to leave them down a couple of power levels in this fight.
That is true, but it might be enough to change the point of contention. The Shatter finds nothing for Faded and gets melted down. Zebra with the double kill as the Immortality gets taken down from Oasis. I don't think they're going to end up needing it. Self-destruct comes out, and the shield there just in time to protect the team. The point flips back over. Overtime ticks away, and there it goes. The Slugs ain't down yet as they go ahead and take Lijiang Tower and are looking to sweep the Bulldogs back into their pen.
Banana slugs are hard to kill, apparently, especially when they have a Doomfist on their side. Zebra felt like the difference maker in so many of those engages, and you have to wonder, at some point, could Bay State have swapped their strategy a little bit sooner to help deal with that? Because at a certain level, this Doomfist needs to get stopped. It is the only thing protecting UCSC from losing in this loser's bracket. Right? And at some points, it felt like Bay State were just running their heads into the same problem in all of these team fights. How do we get through the first part of the fight? Because, once we reach that mid-fight, and once the Doomfist manages to get the cooldown rotation off, somebody's likely already going to be dead, and you need to have the power to trade back. But it never came through for Bay State, even when they had a lot of ultimates to try to do something. It just never happened.
It's absolutely true. I'm updating my map scoreboard right now so that I know kind of where we're headed next, or at least the options that we have on the table to head to next, because the point we have to think about now is what map is not ideal for Doomfist. I think it is really what it comes down to for Bay State. And remember, the Slugs will get to ban one, and it looks like they have chosen Junkertown, which isn't in the map pool, so that won't be the choice that they get to have. Unfortunate. The maps they have to pick from are remaining anyway are, we can't go to Oasis just yet, but Temple of Anubis, Eichenwald, Kings Row, and Blue. That's not a map that I think we're going to be seeing chosen by Bay State, because that would just be an absolute playground for Doomfist. I'd say probably their best bet, seeing what's on the table, probably Blizzard World. But even then, between Blizzard World and Eichenwald, like only certain areas are wide enough open that Doomfist won't get a certain focal value in that
Exactly.
fight. So, that's a toughie. Where would you send him, Amintus?
That is a good question, but out of all of the options for bans, um, I mean, like, you're kind of blessed with a wealth of good options here. As for whatever UCSC decides to go towards, they might not even want to keep Zebra in, right? That might have just been the thing that they needed to prop themselves back up in this fight and try to get them rolling onto others. But regardless, I think this has kind of opened the eyes of UCSC in a lot of different ways because now you have a fighting chance in the Brawl Mirror, something that I feel like UCSC were never really considering previously. We saw them come out on the dive comp in the previous two maps where they pretty roughly lost. It did look pretty dark at times, but they come back in and they 2-0 on Lijiang Tower with Brawl. So I think regardless of their ban decision, they're going to be in a pretty comfortable spot here.
Yeah, no matter which map that they pick, it's really going to be up to the adaptability that we see from Bay State that is going to be able to kind of turn the tide here, unfortunately. And it looks like they're continuing to take some time. So while they're taking time, we would like to remind you to be voting for your MVP below. We'll be bringing them in for an interview after all is said and done. I'm making my way down to see where we're at, and Snozzler still racking up the votes, apparently over 50% of the votes for Snozzler. Faded and Forgotten did get an extra vote during that map, but needless to say, everybody really wants to hear from Snozzler, so really hoping that they're able to take this back right now as we wait for that ban and map choice decision to come out. But needless to say, I don't think even Zebra is the only one that we should be having our eye on here, because some steady support, quite literally, that I've been seeing has been coming from Moises on the side of UCSC, and the only issue that they've been having is that they were on Zenyatta and they weren't able to move very fast. And now that they're on the Moira, they're just able to escape situations so easily. They're able to chase down individuals that are out of position and kind of give that extra little flanking support to whoever's trying to get away or trying to get into that backline. And wow, I'm just seeing a very deadly kind of third DPS on the field that also might swap this for UCSC's favor.
You bring up some great points, particularly with Moses' play so far. But I think his biggest strength so far has actually been his Baptiste. When they get back onto that Brawl composition, at least on the last map of Lijiang Tower, he was consistently staying alive longer than the enemy Baptiste was, just on average, right? And at a certain point, if your Bap stays alive longer, you're going to have a better chance in the mirror. Also, I think another great play that we've been consistently missing, actually, from UCSC is Vasok on this Diva. This guy's bombs have just completely changed the tide of some of these fights. And at a certain level, I feel like Bay State needs to start addressing that problem if they consistently keep losing to that single tool. Regardless, the map ban's going to come through, and like we may have made a little bit of predictions previously, Bay State decides to take out Anubis, so no 2CP left. Or rather, I believe they're actually selecting Anubis. Is that correct?
I believe that they banned Blizzard World, I think.
I see. Yes, so UCSC banned Blizz. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that they're now allowed to ban when there's only one map remaining in a certain area. I might be wrong on that, but I haven't seen any of these matches go past 3 maps, so it's never really mattered, to be completely honest with you.
True.
Needless to say, like you said, it looks like Bay State will choose Anubis, so kind of going off of what you were talking about before, about how they were trying to ban out these maps because maybe they're not so good at it. I think they banned out those 2 maps because they're not good at those maps, and they wanted to narrow it down to the one they were good at. So hopefully this gives Bay State an edge. But again, Temple of Anubis, very close quarters, lots of walls to slam people into. I mean, if Zebra gets any sort of foothold, this is going to be a really rough day for Bay State.
Absolutely, and depending on what side UCSC decide to select here, they're going to be able to dictate a lot of the pace of these fights with that Doomfist. being able to sort of maybe on the defensive side set up engages, or on the attacking side come from those off angles, that's going to allow UCSC to dictate the pace of play. And in a lot of these fights, when Bay State is able to control that pace themselves, they have a much easier time with it. But now, with this new addition of Zebra on Doomfist, it's given the Slugs a new tool in these team fights to flip momentum back in their favor consistently. And even when that Doomfist does not initially succeed, it's a threat that you're always going to have to consider and worry about, which again is going to open up everybody else to do their jobs. I think Enigma and Vassock have really taken advantage of that and started running with it, starting to dominate Faded and Infernal in this tank v tank matchup. And going into Anubis, that's going to be another storyline that we need to watch closely. How do the tanks of both teams assist the rest with their follow-ups?
Yeah, that definitely is going to be a lot of questions on the table right now, because it seems with this newfound spark from the Slugs that this should be a map for them. But Bay State and their adaptability has shown to get them out of tougher situations earlier in today's matchup and in previous matches that we've seen them in as well.
Right.
So we're just waiting for folks to come back from the bathroom. Apparently, it was just a little too much to handle there on Li Zhang, knock some things loose or whatnot, as we're waiting for UCSC to pick which side they're going to be coming in on. And it looks like they're locking in the defense. They want to go ahead and set this down, make this a first point hold if they can do so, and try to keep Bay State from going any further and possibly take us to a map 5.
And even if they give up that first point, I think Doomfist has a ton of aggressive potential on second. There's just thousands of corners to hide behind, it feels like, and plenty of high grounds to drop down from as well. So Zebra's going to have basically the full field of play for himself. He can decide at any point when he wants to go in, and that tempo control is going to be what the Slugs need to close out this second map in their favor, because right now they're at 2-1 in the series. Again, their backs are still against the wall, and Bay State can adapt. They can make changes to their playstyle, to their composition throughout the next 2 maps if we go the distance. Regardless, I'm going to say that the Slugs right now are feeling themselves leaving Zebra in for that Doomfist. They trust him to provide the goods.
That's absolutely true. Now, the question is going to be, what is Bay State going to be coming out with? They could come out with the dive. They could come out with some double bubble. That could actually provide them with a little bit of additional damage and protection, while also keeping that speed on the field. And surprisingly, it looks like they're going with the possibly the double shield, if we're not getting debated there. But I don't know what value that would bring them either. It's really kind of rough for them to take down maybe even one composition that would be specific enough to deal with a Doomfist such as Zebra.
I think it is a good potential option, particularly because of Orisa's Fortify, providing that CC immunity. And just being such a large character will allow you to sort of protect the team on rotations, should you choose to use it that way. But again, the problem is, it's not just Zebra, right? We've got Snozzler on this Hanzo, and that's a one-shot potential in and of its own right. A single arrow to the face could end this attack in an instant.
All right, well, let's see what they can make happen. Forgotten and Infernal already falling incredibly low due to Snozzler and Moises right there. Utilized and immediately melted down by Infernal and the rest of the team, as they are able to rotate their way in. And there it goes, Zebra going in deep with a big old elbow drop, but not going to be finding any picks this time around. We do see UCSC trying to push their way in as Cabe goes in for the rotation, and Snozzler just finds him with an arrow to the face, as does Forgotten with that storm arrow. And there they go, locked up like a Chinese finger trap. They're going to go ahead and eliminate all of Bay State, literally chasing Faded down to the mini outside of spawn.
Cabe tries to go for that off angle. They're looking to remove Moses now that the immortality field was gone, but fortunately, Snozzler's on point with the Hanzo, able to force away that Echo by killing them. And that allows UCSC to push through and close out that defense. And now they've got the ult advantage in tow as well. They've just got to find a good way to utilize it. If these ults don't get value and Bay State survives, they can win this.
That hurts right there, fam. I'm so sorry that happened to you. First a amped fire strike and then a dragon strike from the other direction. Not a good day for a Brig player, it seems. But we are able to see some cleanup coming in for the side of Bay State. And I'm not exactly for certain what Enigma was trying to do there, but they get melted down, as does the rest of the team. That's Objective Alpha with 2 minutes on the clock. Brings them up to 5 as they head into Point Bravo.
The Banana Slugs were unable to get value out of the window in the Dragon Strike. Enigma Shadow never comes through, and that double shield composition takes the static strength and rotates it towards the objective. And now, they've got a significant ult advantage, but they just have to be careful for Zebra on this off angle. That punch can instantly end the attack because of those respawn advantages on 2CP. They're opening it with the Bob, and Cabe is flying overhead, but they don't have any kills to speak of just yet.
All right, Gravitic Flux invested. Bob, the duplicate gets immediately melted out, as does the Bob. Self-destruct going in way deep. It does grab the Immortality Field, as does the other side. But Nevin Infernal ain't done yet. The Bongos provide the power for them to wipe the objective. That's first tick on the board as we see Snozzler swapping over to the Reaper. Second tick, just barely able to touch 98.7% right now as they're able to get back in to this objective. The shatter comes out, but I think it's nothing but shield as Cabe just starts melting them all downtown. The feed fest just continues to come in from spawn, but it doesn't seem like there's much they can do to change the toe of the fight. We do see Zebra trying to slam somebody into a wall, but just continues to get melted out every time they step foot on the field. 3 minutes 42 seconds, and Bay State sets a very quick time bank for their attack as they head to defense.
Not a single moment there where UCSC were able to flip it back in their favor, and it felt like at times Zebra's Doomfist just struggled to find a good way into some of those fights. When you're facing down that double shield composition, the Orisa that can provide CC immunity and block the punch, you've got the Bash coming in from the Brigada, the Lamp from Abs as well, and you're not even able to open up the fights in your own right. I mean, naturally, that static strength from that double shield composition will reach the objective, and you're going to have a very difficult time displacing them. So, the moment that Bay State just rotates to point for free, essentially, without any response, they throw the Bob out, they get the rally out from Neb and Toe as well. It's just too much to bear for UCSC.
That's true, and now with them on the attack, they have to try to figure out a way to turn this sucker around. They could opt into the double shield themselves and try to come out with a little bit more shield deletion with a Junkrat or even a Hanzo that we saw Snozzler using previously. But, maybe even investing in the Symmetra that they currently have locked in. You get her up to that level 3, and those shields not going to be lasting very long. But they got to get to point first to have that engagement.
It's going to be about Snozzler and where he decides to use this teleporter. If he can get it into a good position on the back line without losing any members on the initial push through, they will be able to get a melee engage. And that's exactly what UCSC wants. They want to reach the front lines as 6. Looks like they're not going to use it immediately, but here it comes. They're dropping it on the high ground. Can they find anybody?
Oh, the aggressive push coming in from the Slugs. Teleport straight to the high ground with a little bit of a debate right there. And I don't even think that they've noticed that half of the team is behind them right now. Enigma comes in with the charge, but not able to find anyone right there. Snozzler with the 2, but we see the cleanup returned by Bay State as well. It's a 3v4 on the field, and it looks like the Slugs gonna have to pull back for now, but if they quick, they might be able to take advantage of the disadvantage of Bay State.
Yeah, Bay State's down 2 members, but it looks like Abs and Cape will be able to return quickly enough before Archipelago respawns, so really clutch exit pick there coming in from the defensive side that buys them time for a decent 6v6 fight, and again, we're seeing a similar strategy here. UCSC rotates to this side, but they've chosen not to TP away immediately just yet. They're trying to figure out something, but really, it's about setting up Zebra. The Doomfist in the previous engage got absolutely nothing, no punch kills, no resources forced, and now they're taking it full eventually will reconvene with the team. So now they're going to be able to peek out, maybe try to set up on this high ground for the window, give some space to Zebra to pop off in this next engage.
All right, let's see if they can make it work. We see the rotation coming in through the courtyard as we see the duplicate coming out for Cabe.
There it is.
Immortality invested as the amp comes out, and it is just a slaughter fest on the field right now. Blue bodies all over the place, and Zebra not able to find a pick in sight, not going to be able to get out of here without falling late. That's going to shave even more time off the bank. Minute 50 remaining on the clock as UCSC struggle to find their footing.
Oh, Forgotten, you gotta watch out, buddy. That coach gun, that was dangerous. Almost gets taken out immediately. And now Snoz was trying to TP to the objective, but the Bob's gonna disrupt it as well as the Flux. That AoE damage is so huge. But eventually, UCSC will be able to reach the objective and drop the sound barrier, but they've lost one member. Can they win this fight?
Yeah, but the teleporter was able to get them out of that positioning. First hit already on the board as Zebra comes in now with the Meteor Strike to escape and try to re-engage and take out the supports. Unfortunately, not going to find the value that they were looking for there, and the melt just comes in once again from Bay State. It looks like they have found the Achilles heel of this Doomfist player, and not even that can save them with only a minute remaining on the clock.
I mean, if you look at these time banks, it feels like this is kind of a foregone conclusion already, where Bay State has such a massive advantage on the top of your screen that even if they lose back-to-back team fights, give up a ton of space, lose a couple of team fights in a row, they still have such a massive time bank advantage that they can just win by default if they stall things out. And picks like that are going to allow them to do so. That's another exit pick, or rather entry pick this time around, that Bay State's just kind of getting for free, it feels like.
Yeah, unfortunately, the position of the shield just millimeters away from where it needed to be to protect their fallen compatriot, but now they are back together. 20 seconds remaining on the clock as they start to move their way into the high ground. Amp Matrix coming out as the fire strike, not grabbing value. Shatter for intimidation. I'm not exactly for certain what it was looking for. The bomb does end up taking down the bongos. I'm not 100% certain, and Cabe's Ore found Zebra. Nobody is able to touch the point in time. And there it is. Bay State locks down the objective, locks down their victory in the series, and will move on to face Hog Mafia in Losers Bracket 4 matchup later this week.
Wonderful first point defense coming out. And you can kind of see why Bay State likes to pick this map. They banned out the other two CPs, and they decided to go towards Temple of Anubis. It felt like they had a plan every step of the way. Whether they found that first struggle or not on that first point on their attacking side, they had the default victory condition of just forcing out that Doomfist consistently with their double shield and all of that backline presence that a Doomfist just cannot dive. Zebra's going to struggle by default. So, you know, the Doomfist gambit eventually stops paying off, and that's when the Banana Slugs start to falter, and Bay State finally closes out that series with a 3-1 victory. So excited to see where they continue to go in this losers bracket run.
That's absolutely true. We're going to be getting Snozzler in here in a few moments, so we'll just be waiting for that to come in. But remember, if you've loved what you've seen here tonight, be sure to hit that heart, punch that bell, and hit that sub button if you can to continue to show your support for this community and just get notified every time we're online as we're waiting for our interviewee to come in. Let's take a look at the upcoming matches for Wednesday. Due to some rescheduling, we had to shuffle some things around. We'll be seeing the first match of Losers Bracket Round 4, which will be Cryex versus Regen, coming in at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe. Thursday at 9:23 at 6 p.m. we'll be seeing the other match, which is Bay State versus Hog Mafia. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, we'll be seeing the winners finals between Andy's Daycare and Gaia Esports, which is definitely a matchup you are not going to want to be missing out on.
Absolutely. And if you look at some of the paths that the teams have gone through to reach this current point, seems like Andy's Daycare and Gaia have been dominating that upper bracket. The only team that Gaia really struggled against was Regen, that pushed them to 3-2, but they made it through, and now they get to face the other top team on the other side of the bracket, Andy's Daycare, who has only gone through one map loss so far. So that's going to be a banger to watch for sure. And if you like what you saw today, Bay State's going to be back for more as well against Hog Mafia, who previously did 3-2 the UCSC Slugs. But this time around, I think the results might be different because Bay State are coming into this next match with basically revamped hopes after such a good Hugh performance. And now with this victory 3-1 over UCSC, I think Bay State is going to definitely be a team to watch.
Yeah, it's all about that adaptability we've been talking about all night. Just being able to see Bay State kind of change, even tweak a couple of little things to be able to work it out in their favor. As you saw, it wasn't even much that they needed to do. The swap of Cape over to that Echo, and just a couple of adjustments in their play style really allowed them to deny that Doomfist play. And it looks like we got Snozzler in the lobby. Snozzler, it was a well-fought match tonight. How you feeling?
We came in, we had kind of no expectations, you know, that they're a pretty good team. That they're a top 4 collegiate team in my opinion. I think they got top 4 in the last tournament, you know. So we just came in, as you probably know, we got no strats. Our strat is just shoot them, you know. And when our just shoot them strat wasn't working, we brought in the secret weapon, the Doomfist just shoot them
to
strat.
Just punch them.
Yeah,
gotcha.
The just punch them strat. And it worked until they picked the good characters, and then it didn't work out so well. You know?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, that I guess if you boil down Overwatch, that is kind of what it's all about. And, you know, just more of their bullets met more of your faces. It's just the unfortunate matter of it all. But needless to say, y'all had a very well-fought run in this tournament, being able to make it up to losers bracket round 3. What is kind of the future for UCSC right now? Any upcoming tournaments that y'all are able to divulge that you'll be participating?
I'm not sure if we're in any tournaments now. We all moved in this week, 2 days ago or something.
Oh.
So actually, I'm right next to fucking Otters or Archipelago. So we got the land buff going on with the Brig Tracer.
Nice.
So we got like really bad internet. It's just Wi-Fi, but so we'll see what's going on. Maybe we can figure something out.
Well,
nothing planned.
I would say for a team that I guess just kind of came together very quickly then with the semester starting, y'all have definitely set up a name for yourselves, and with a little more practice and a little more gumption, I see you.
Where to start? First of all, what's up, bro? I feel like it's been a while, or maybe even the first time we've gotten to speak in VC together. We've played in a couple ranked matches, but Snozzler, you're a player that personally I've kind of held a pretty high regard as a decent Tracer player for sure, and you did get to pull out the Tracer a lot in this match, but I was wondering if there's any other heroes that you've been grinding in the background to maybe pull out in future matches.
Yeah, I'm quite a flexible DPS player. Some might know me as a one trick, but I've got a lot of stuff in the back pocket. I can whip out the Doomfist, the Echo, the Hanzo at a moment's notice.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
So, quite flexible.
I'm interested to see that flexibility take your team to new levels, because honestly, at the very surface level, coming in and you said it yourself, you're facing a top 4 collegiate team. You guys have low expectations. You put on a show. There were some very close maps there, absolutely, and with a little bit of time, practice, and some additional synergy, I'm really excited to see where your team goes from here, and just really putting your name down in the collegiate scene as a team to watch. So I guess last question for me is going to be, do you have any shout outs to the rest of the team? Any family members you want to give a verbal high five to?
Just shout out UCSC, the squad. A lot of people on the squad. Got like fucking 15 people, We just, whoever can show up, shows up, And
Nice.
Shout out Abs as well. That guy had some crazy Nolan VOD reviews or some shit. I don't know. that guy's the goat.
He was fading into the B line. I didn't notice that. So that's gonna do it for me.
That is awesome. I got one more question before we let you go, Snozzler, because there's only 6 teams remaining in the tournament now, and I'm sure you all have been kind of keeping your eye on folks, or I hope you have been. I know you said you came in with no strategy, but needless to say, you got to know who you're going to be coming up against. So right now, sitting in the top 6, we got Andy's Daycare, Gaia Esports, now Bay State, Hog Mafia, Cryex, and Regen. Who do you put your money on to take it all the way?
Personally, Bay State, they have a pretty good chance. Cryex, pretty good team. They got the boys budget, they got the boys narwhal, they got some gamers. But also I think Andy's Daycare, they have some, they have some pretty good players, Infected, he's on the come up. He has some crazy montages. So it's between those 3 teams in my opinion. And you know what? I'll just say Andy's Daycare is going to win it all.
All right. Well, Andy's Daycare currently sitting in the winners finals that we'll be seeing later on this week definitely has the upper hand of the 3 that you mentioned. So thank you so much for your time, Snozzer. We're going to go ahead and send you back to your team, and we hope that we'll see you in another tournament soon.
Okay. Adios.
All right, folks, and that is going to be it for us tonight. Again, be sure to be catching tomorrow night's rescheduled match at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, you're going to be seeing Fryex versus Regen, and the winner of that team will go to face on the next matchup on Thursday, which is between Bay State and Hog Mafia, as all 4 of those teams try to claw their way back to that grand finals positioning in the lower bracket. You can find me at CAPT_Jack87 on Twitter for all of your dank dad joke memes, as well as a lot of other tournaments that I'm part of, either running myself or just in casting. Amintus, where can we find you?
My @ on Twitter is Amintus_. For whatever reason, the name Amintus was taken. I don't think I've ever met anybody that has that name, but regardless, you can find me there on the Twit. Also at my Twitch, Amintus_. Yeah, I stream other games besides Overwatch. If you're interested in RuneScape or that kind of thing, you can find me there as well. But overall, I would definitely say that this cast with you, Jack, was a pleasure. It was really good to get our first cast together here, and it was a great match to boot. And again, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Bay State does in the rest of this tournament.
I could not agree more, Amintus. It was a pleasure for me because I finally broke my 3-0 streak in this tournament. Every match I've gotten has been an absolute stump, and I was able to see some incredible Overwatch play tonight, and that just makes me giddy as a schoolgirl. As of course, we always want to thank our producer Refuse, putting on amazing work for us tonight as always. So be sure to give him a good old shout out in the chat. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Star Esports Star Brawl, and we'll see y'all later this week.
In the night.